Hello super friends and welcome to DC TV Talk, and in today's episode we're going to be breaking down and going over the new mystery Green Arrow who has now been revealed to be Emiko Queen. So let's discuss. So in Arrow Season 7 Episode 8, in the opening scene, we got the reveal of who the new Green Arrow is who has been palling around Star City this season on Arrow. And while it's not abundantly clear who this character is at first, if you're a fan of the comics and are knowledgeable of the comics, you have been able to put the pieces together throughout this episode that this character is Emiko Queen. And what I want to do in this video is go over who Emiko Queen is, what her story is in the comics, and what they might do with her on screen, and what her story could be this season. So let's dive into it. So who is Emiko Queen? Well, Emiko Queen is the half-sister of Oliver Queen, of course our main character on the show, and she is, in the comics, the daughter of Robert Queen and Shadow. So in the show, obviously this is going to have to be dramatically changed unless they do reveal something about Robert that I personally don't want to be revealed. But obviously in the comics, it being Robert and Shadow, in this it's going to have to be changed. Now, we do know that her father is Robert Queen, as we see that at the very end of episode 8 of season 7. We see her in front of Robert Queen's grave. She specifically says dad, and says, you know, Oliver's more like you than I first thought. Now, this obviously does confirm that this is, you know, Robert's daughter, but who's the mother? Well, obviously you just have to look at her, you know, just based on how she looks. Obviously it's not Moira, so who could it be? Well, like I say, I don't think it'll be Shadow like it is in the comics, because it can't really be Shadow because of the age difference, and also Robert and Shadow have never met as far as we know, so I don't think that'll be the case. Now, there is the complete possibility that, you know, this could be a completely just random woman who we never meet and who we never see. We just find out that Robert had an affair at some point in his life, hence why Emiko is around. But I feel like they are going to want to tie this in a little bit, and I feel like if they wanted to, they could easily go down the path of Isabel Rochev. Isabel Rochev was the woman who took over Queen Consolidated in Season 2, if you remember that character. And we do know that her and Robert had a bit of a fling when she was like an apprentice at Queen Consolidated. So because of that, and because of their history, and I know she was Russian, but I think she had Asian heritage, I feel like you could link that in some way. So unless, you know, the character who is Emiko's mother is a completely random character, I feel like Isabel Rochev is probably the best and most likely and most, you know, plausible choice we have in terms of characters we've seen on the show thus far. Now, in the comics, Emiko Queen was eventually kidnapped and was actually living with Simon Lacroix, otherwise known as Komodo. Now, we've actually seen Komodo on Arrow. He was in Season 3. Now, we've never seen him since. A lot of people have really wanted to see him return because he was a really awesome character. But I don't feel like the whole Simon Lacroix storyline is going to tie into Emiko whatsoever, because in the comics, he kidnaps her and basically trains her. So she grew up with, you know, with all this training. She grew up with Simon Lacroix. And then she eventually came back to Star City and eventually teamed up with her half-brother, Oliver, and became the new version of the Red Arrow. Now, obviously, like I say, I don't think they're going to do that just because Simon Lacroix was a very minimal character when it comes to Arrow overall. I know he was really awesome. I would love to see him again. And if they connected this to him, that would be very cool. That would be very interesting. And maybe they would actually give some reasoning as to why Simon Lacroix came after Oliver in Season 3. Maybe there was a bit more to it than what we knew. That would be cool, but I just feel like it's a bit of a stretch, and I don't think they'll do that. So I feel like, you know, she's going to maybe, you know, train herself. Also, we do know that Malcolm Merlyn is returning in some capacity later on this season. So I feel like that's got to be to do with, you know, maybe him training her or something like that. There's got to be some kind of connection between Emiko and Malcolm at some point. So I feel like that's what they're going to be doing. That's what they're going to be establishing. Now, in the comics, after she comes back to Star City, like I say, she becomes the new Red Arrow and she teams up with Oliver and becomes a new vigilante in Star City. And I feel like that second half of her origin is a lot more likely to come into play. So like I say, I feel like she could easily become a member of Team Arrow. She could also become the new Green Arrow, or the new Red Arrow for that matter. You know, kind of like we've had, you know, Roy Harper, who is Arsenal. We've had Thea, who is Speedy. I feel like we could see Emiko Queen become the new version of the Red Arrow. Now, Emiko Queen is a lot older on the show than what she is in the comics, but I still feel like she could take up that mantle of the Red Arrow, and it wouldn't be a problem. Whether she'd go by Arsenal, if she'd go by Speedy, or if she'd go by a completely new name, we'll have to wait and see. but I think it'd be really awesome to make her the new Red Arrow, and I feel like the opportunity is perfect. It's there, it's ripe. They just have to launch for it, and I feel like with Emiko, with her training, I mean, she's been able to be the Green Arrow for many, many months now. It wouldn't be that much of a jump to go from the Green Arrow to the Red Arrow, so I think that'd be an interesting play, and to make her kind of like an equal to Oliver, which we've already seen, she has equal training, and she can hold her own against Oliver. She has got to be pretty well trained, and will therefore be a pretty good sidekick to fight alongside with Oliver Queen. Now, one final thing I'd like to bring up is that in the comics, Emiko Queen is heavily connected to the Ninth Circle. Now, the Ninth Circle is something that Arrow fans have been talking about for a while now, as a potential villain coming in this season, potentially for next season. Now, the Ninth Circle is a big criminal organization that's existed within the DC Comics for many, many years now, and I feel like that is something they could implement into this season. Now, we've had hints of it already, being the painting that Curtis and Diggle have uncovered on their Argus missions, the Dante painting. Now, the reason Dante is notable is because Dante is actually the leader of the Ninth Circle. And, like I say, in the comics, Emiko Queen is heavily connected to the Ninth Circle, as is Moira Queen. So that's very interesting as well. Could we see some Moira flashbacks? Could we get some Susanna Thompson back on the show to do some Moira flashbacks? I would love that. I love Susanna Thompson. I'd love for her to come back. It's always a joy when she comes back. So I'd love to see her, you know, come back and do some flashbacks if that's possible. Maybe her and Emiko cross paths at some point. That would be very interesting and fun. So I feel like, you know, the connection to the Ninth Circle and the Ninth Circle potentially coming into this cannot be a coincidence in the fact that this is the same season that we are being introduced to Emiko Queen. Overall, I feel like Emiko Queen is a really awesome character, and to be honest, I never thought in a million years we'd get introduced to Emiko Queen on Arrow. I just thought she was just, you know, so far out as a character. She's a very recent character as well in regards to the comics. Very, very recent. I never thought we would get her on the show, but the fact we're getting her, and she's so badass, she's really capable, she's cool, she's mysterious, and she has all of this training. There's so many ways they can go with this character, and in regards to her in the future, I'm sure she will show up in the future storyline at some point this season. I'm sure we'll see the actress C. Shimuka do some scenes with them. There are hints online that there already could be some scenes with her, so I feel like there's going to be some really awesome stuff, and this character is just like an infinite well of possibilities of things they could do on the show with her, and I feel like we're just waiting to see what they will do with her, and I'm very, very excited to say the least. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always, guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said, guys, hope to see you again in my next video.